Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the man behind the counter, Duncan, and today I am very excited to talk about a brand new 4K release of an old school action classic that is getting its due. It is Hard Target, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, and it was directed by John Woo. It's his American debut. He was known in Hong Kong, for The Killers and Hard Boiled, but this was his American debut. And the original movie that you saw in the theaters and on the different releases was cut a little bit because it was so violent and there were some really bloody kills that they had to cut it back to get it to an R rating. So this one restores some of that, and this is a definitive cut that John Woo approved of. There's been some international cuts that had some of the extra kills and some extra scenes, and so this one they took some of those and put it into here, and this is considered the definitive cut. And I watched it last night, and you can see some extra things. But first, I'm going to talk about how this movie was special to me. The first movie I ever bought when I started collecting when I was a teenager was Hard Target. This is a VHS I bought at a Blockbuster. It was previously viewed, so it was a little cheaper, and I wore it out more than it was already worn out, and it doesn't work so well anymore. So I had to pick up Bare Bones DVD so I could have a physical copy of it and watch it. And when I heard about this release, I was really excited because not only do you get extra footage and a director's cut approved by John Woo himself, but you get a great 4K transfer, and it also has a DTS 5.1 surround sound. Now, I watched this last night, and the video is excellent. It has never looked better. This is one of the visually best 4Ks I've ever seen. It looks absolutely incredible. The sound isn't Dolby Atmos, but it's very good. So it's a very enjoyable experience. You won't have any complaints. Now, everything like Van Damme's mullet looks even cooler. The clothes, you can see some details on that. The black levels are good. The New Orleans setting, it's kind of like watching it again for the first time in many ways. It's really, really good. It's up there with like Underworld and No Time to Die as far as visual transfers. This thing looks incredible. Now, the additional footage at the beginning of the movie when they start with a hunt, there's one extra scene in that. I've seen this movie a million times, so I know I could tell when there's extra footage. So at the beginning, you see an extra explosion and a little bit more before they kill the opening guy in the sequence. You see a little bit more detail in that. And the real additional footage and dialogue really comes into play in the final shootout in the Mardi Gras graveyard. It's in a warehouse. That's where the final climactic action sequence takes place. And here they add a lot. You can see a lot in here. There are some differences. So it was really a real treat. Now, there's also an interview with actress Yancy Butler. She played Natasha Bender in the movie. She gave some great insight to the film and the making of it and how it really got her career going. And they talked to John Woo about his experience making it. And he did talk about, which I had known about, Sam Raimi, the guy who directed the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, was brought on by Universal because John Woo was his American debut, that he was brought on in case things went awry. Sam Raimi would step in and take over. And they really hovered over John Woo and pressured him. Universal did. And Sam Raimi, ironically, who was brought in there to help Universal in case they didn't like the way things were going, he became John Woo's biggest defender. He's like, leave the guy alone. And John Woo talked about how grateful he was to Sam Raimi because Sam Raimi was a big fan of John Woo's work. So they talk about that, and they talk to the stunt coordinator Billy Burton. There's a good interview with him about how things went in here and how everything was very practical. Now, the movie itself, the plot is pretty simple. It's basically The Most Dangerous Game, and Van Damme plays Chance Boudreaux, who gets caught in the middle of these guys who go to places they're having hard times with things, and so they conduct hunts for rich people who want to hunt humans. That's basically it. And Lance Henriksen's awesome here. Arnold Vosloo is great in his role, and Yancey Butler is great, and Van Damme, of course, does the Van Damme things. And this was probably maybe his best role as far as the physicality, so much as far as gunplay and the martial arts. I mean, he really went all out, and he has the most awesome mullet ever. So it's the only time he really sported a mullet in a movie, and this was his. He was really sporting in this one. But this movie is great. The music's great. And I really think if you're a fan of this film or a fan of action films in general, you've got to pick this up. This is Kino Lorber knocked it out of the park, and it was worth the wait to get the one that was done right. So I'm absolutely thrilled to get it. And also, don't forget, if you love old school action movies, give Video Mania 2 a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. That's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.